Good evening, everybody. You join us live from Brunton Park. I've always wanted to say that. We're over in the East Stand tonight. We've got a reduced panel group tonight. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the outstanding questions. It was great that we got so many first time round, and so much so that we couldn't get through them last week. For any that we can't get answered tonight because the appropriate panel members aren't there, there'll be a written response provided by the club as soon as possible. Just to go through the panel tonight, we've got Suzanne Kidd, Nigel Clibbins, Jim Mitchell and Billy Atkinson, and it's going to be myself, Simon, together with Dan and Matt from the fans groups, putting the questions to the panel. So Dan's going to kick us off tonight, please.
Yeah, this one is it's sort of a question from several people amalgamated into one for the club. Keith Elliott, David Brown, Mike Turney, Hugh McKellar and Peter Watson all basically want to know what are the club's actual ambitions. Is it League One Championship? Should we celebrate finishing 10th and be happy? What would you see as good in 3 years' time? We've had a long period of mediocrity sort of thing. What's the ambition basically?
Well, the ambition's pure and simple. It's to win promotion and get out of League Two. That's the immediate ambition. After that, we want to establish ourselves in League One and then push to get promoted into the Championship. I think where that takes us, there's no limits in football, as we all know, but I think, put simply, the ambition is to get out of this league, and I think we're all focused on that.
Mike Turney has also asked, on 3 occasions in the last 5 seasons, a promising first half of the season has been followed by a very poor second half, costing us promotion on each occasion. What would the board say to supporters who are deeply sceptical about the club's ambitions, and why should season ticket holders renew their tickets this year?
Well, I think there's no getting away from the fact that we've had some seasons where we've had absolutely fantastic starts, and we've for various reasons haven't quite got over the line in the second half of the season. We all recognise that. I think this particular season there's been lots of debate about the whys and wherefores, why we hadn't made it after the first half that we did have. And I think the club and the football department, David, Chris, Gav, the players, they're all looking and having an honest appraisal of what's happened in the second half of the season. There's things that are controllable and things that are not controllable. So I think it's important that process takes place, and it has been, and it will continue to do so. So that's sort of looking at it from that perspective. I think in terms of, I've seen reports, it's a Carlisle problem. We always fade away in the second half of the season. I don't think there's anything systematic in that. I just think it's how it is. It is disappointing nonetheless. I think in terms of ambition, I think we want to get out of the league. If you look at this season in particular, when we got to January, everybody, all the reports, the feel-good factor was that the January window was excellent and that the best we've had in a while. So there's no shortage of saying, right, let's get over the line, and then endeavouring to do it. So I think that what we're trying to do is give as much support to Chris and the football department as we can to try and help them get across the line. I think as far as next season, if you compare where we are this season to where we were this time last season, I think we're in a far better place. We're going to have a lot less churn this season than we had last year, where we were basically reconstructing a team from scratch. I mean, got a new manager over in November the year before, so there was a lot of hard work to do. Chris had to stamp his authority on the squad. It started that in the January, but there was still a lot to do this time last year. We've got the building blocks in place. We had a fantastic first half of the season. there's lots of positive to take away from that. I think from my point of view, how do I look at it, and the part about is it something to be celebrated? I think let's tackle this straight on the head. That's based on what Chris said. So we all saw it, and I know it raised a number of eyebrows with some fans as to what that actually meant. I think from my own personal point of view, I think if you look at where we've finished in recent years, certainly since I came to the club, we've been around 10th or 11th most seasons that we've finished. We got to the playoffs one year, and we were 18th after the trauma last year and the incomplete season. So 10th is about par for this club in recent years. It's not par in terms of ambition to do better. Absolutely not. So I think we need to make a distinction between success and progress. So from my point of view, we had a season of progress, but it wasn't a season of success because we didn't achieve anything. We didn't get over the line. So they're two different things. I think you can make progress and at the same time be unsuccessful. Not everybody's going to get up, and we've got to come from a long journey back from where we were. But I think the team has demonstrated over the course of the season that it possesses a lot of the characteristics to challenge at the top of this division. We've got a lot of things that we need to build on, but I think everybody understands that the work that needs to be done, and they're all looking to do it. So about next season, why would I buy a season ticket? Number one, I think there's a lot to look forward to. I think we've got the building blocks in place. Number two, I think supporting a club is about having a togetherness, and if ever there's a time for togetherness, it's now. The club has been through a really, really difficult patch. We've managed it financially. Lots of clubs are in a real parlous state now, and going into next season it could be even worse for them. So I think now is the time to stick together. I think we're stable off the field, no doubt about that. We're financially okay. Yes, we've got issues to deal with in succession. We went through all those at the other forum, but there's a lot to look forward to here, and I think some unity and some backing of the club, getting behind the lads, backing Chris for the next season to try and make some more progress and finally get over the line and have some success rather than just progress, I think is worth fighting for. And I just hope the fans will support us, because without the fans we're nothing.
Well, I'm a fan and I'll support them. You stole my thunder, of course, as usual. But what I was going to say was the players gave their all. I've been watching Carlisle United for about 67 years, and I don't recall seeing a more committed group of players, and the management must have contributed to that, and it does give confidence for next season. But yeah, the end of the season was disappointing, and I'd also echo that what I've seen in the boardroom and when I go to games and with the other directors, they're ambitious and they're fans and they want the club to get up. So and that, you know, the criticisms that are levelled at them for having no ambition, I've seen no evidence personally.
Just on the theme of success, Richard Mullen asks, he thinks that Nigel was once quoted saying it gets boring playing Cambridge and Cheltenham. Well, we won't have that problem next season because two relatively small, boring clubs have achieved promotion. What will it take for us to do the same?
Well, I didn't say they were boring clubs. I'm just saying the point I was making was that if you play the same opposition season after season, it becomes boring. There's no getting away from it. That's fact. You can see it in the attendance. You can feel it around the club. So that is a fact, and I'll stand by that. In terms of them getting promoted, I think I think, what does it show? I think it shows that the benefit of continuity. I think it shows that having less churn in your players and having less churn with managers helps. I think it shows that finances are not a barrier to success in this division, and that if you can build a cohesive team with hungry young players over a period, keep them together, have a method of playing, that you can really progress and you can actually achieve in this division. So I think it shows what can be done. It shows what can be done. So I look at those clubs and say, yeah, why not Carlisle? It doesn't always have to be the super spenders who get promoted. Absolutely not. So I think that it shows what I've felt all along. It's not about money.
Next question is one for the Kiosk. This is from David Gale. He says, my question is as follows. Apologise, it's quite lengthy, this one. It's about the trust, and he says it isn't a dig at folk involved, as in I know they have the interest of the club at their hearts. He said, should the trust's purpose not be to increase its shares in the club and to eventually look to try and get the club fan owned? He says he's not totally convinced this is the aim of our trust, and there's a lot of fans are unsure of the purpose or aims. He then goes on to say that the trust in 20 years of existence roughly have raised 800 grand, which you would think is a decent amount. He says, but when you compare it to some clubs' trust, it's slightly underwhelming. As an example, he offers up the Foundation of Hearts, Heart of Midlothian up in Scotland. He said, yes, they've raised 9 million since 2014. He doesn't quite expect that sort of level. He said, you know, with a lot smaller club, but he's saying it shows that if you have a good organisation in place, what can be done. And he says that they fund it by having several thousand members contributing different amounts towards the group every month. It seems to work pretty well. I think he possibly works with someone who's a member. He says it also gives supporters some power, as they can easily pull the funding if they feel the club isn't using it properly. He goes, for example, he said from your last minutes, just over 400 members of the trust. He said if you could get 400 people to put £20 a month in, that's about 8.5 grand a month. It'd be just over 100 grand a year. He said if you could get membership to say 1,000, you're probably knocking on £250,000 a year. He says, however, to my knowledge, for whatever reason, we cannot seem to get consistent fundraising which would go towards the club and the trust helping each other, etc. Is this sort of a model that the trust could go down? And also, just as a side thing, Mike Turney also asks, what is the Kiosk actually doing to generate funds for the club?
This is really difficult for us. The trust did well until it got into an argument with Fred Story. Fred Story effectively trashed the trust, and he trashed it all because in one way we tried to bring some money into the club for an asset that the club was trying to give away, and from then on the club, the trust has been, the credibility of the trust went down. Now we've tried all kinds of ways to generate money. We're at the present time, and Jim mentioned it last week, we're looking at a sort of manifesto of what our ambition should be, and hopefully that will come out in the not too distant future. But you know, you've got the supporters organisations as well, you know, all trying to raise money for the club. So we duplicate things, and this is what I tried to say to you last Tuesday. There's a lot of duplication when you try to do this. And yes, we'd love to have 1,000 members. We'd love to have 2,000 members. Like, you know, I can't remember what it was at its peak. All contributing money, but we have struggled really badly since that time. I think what we've tried to do since then is unite with the club a lot more, try and Jim and I in particular, and we've got to tell you, Mr. Clibbons here has been a major help in that. We've tried to get a much better rapport with the club, and at the same time we try to make sure that the fans' voices are heard, and we try to make sure the governance of the club is good. I think, you know, all we can say is we are developing a manifesto, and I hope that will help. I mean, Jim, what do you want to say about it?
Not a lot. Given that the fan-led review of governance of football gives much more prominence to fans and to supporters trusts, we've got an opportunity presented by the changing mood in the game, I think, to have a good campaign for more members. We've tried that a number of times, but we haven't been particularly successful. But perhaps what's coming is an opportune time to try even harder.
Yeah, I think maybe I can give a different perspective here. No axe to grind in terms of the trust. Just kind of an independent overview. I think the trust at this club is caught between two stools, which makes it very difficult for it. I've thought this all along. The fact of the matter is, if you're a 100% owned football club, the fans know that they control the club. They know that the money that they then generate, they essentially decide what happens to it through the board of that club, and they have a much bigger stake in the destiny of the club financially compared to a club where the stake of a trust is low and it's owned and controlled by others and they have the majority. So that makes it very difficult, because at that point it's right, if I donate to this club, where's the money going? Who's spending it? Do I want them to be the custodians of my donation? And I think that's the reality of it. So if you look at the most successful trusts that are associated with clubs that are almost exclusively fan owned, so Exeter, Newport, Wimbledon. So they're three kind of examples. So if you're a minority and you are seen not to have much of a voice because you can be outvoted and marginalised, fans, they're not stupid. I mean, we all know the game, we all can see that, and that breeds a degree of scepticism about what they're doing. So that makes fundraising very difficult. So that gives the trust an identity issue about whether it is a fundraiser or a governance safeguard. In my opinion, the trust here should be, with the current structure, a marginal fundraiser for fan initiatives that go directly to fan-based benefits and that can easily be seen as transparent. And I think that is the right thing to do. I think they also need to prioritise, which they are doing, the governance angle, but not the fundraising. In this structure, fundraising for the wider club isn't going to work. It isn't going to work unless there is a different succession. And I think we've got to be realistic about that, in my view. We can't get away from it. So to me, the trust has to and should focus on governance and fan-led fundraising. And where you've got individuals in control of a football club, in this day and age, and until football gets more viable, that clubs can live off their own means, fans see a primary role of individual shareholders in a club as bankrolling it. They see that as their responsibility. We see it here. So one of the things John Nixon said was, we can't fund it anymore. we can't fund it anymore, and that we need to step aside, and they accept that. They accept that. So I think fundraising for someone else to spend the money is very difficult for fans' trusts. But that doesn't mean fans' trusts are not really important in today's day and age. And I think they're more important than fans themselves actually understand in moderating club behaviour behind the scenes.
We tried when COVID hit us to do a Carlisle Reunited fund, and we did a lot of good things to try and attract resources in, plenty of good videos with ex-star players and so forth, but we still weren't successful, and we stressed the calamity the club could face throughout this period. It turns out that we haven't had as calamitous a situation as we kind of portrayed or thought we'd have, but I think the football fortune we had leading up to the pandemic has helped us very much during that period.
I think, you know, if we go back, I know I said about Fred, but I think it was easy to understand when Fred Story ran the club, it was easy to understand who owned the club and what direction it was going in. And I had many rows with Mr. Story, but I tell you that, you know, I would never ever say it, you know, doubt what he did for the club was good. But I think since then we've got into a succession of trying to find succession that for all kinds of reasons hasn't worked. We have never been a block to that succession. We've always said we'll work with whoever comes in, and if it's good succession we will try and work with them and not be a block to any succession. But I think, you know, we to some degree we're tarred with the same brush as them. We're seen now as part of the fabric of the club. So, you know, it's difficult for us on the fundraising side.
And we have been instrumental in blocking bad investment with a certain Syrian gentleman, and you know, we couldn't have imagined that guy taking over our football club, and we were very vocal about that, and it didn't happen.
Good one, some nice half-time pizzas, huh?
So
We've had too many pizzas.
So the next question continues on from David and Mike's theme. It's perhaps a chance for Kiosk to sort of elaborate on the benefit they can give to the club. So Chris Armstrong is asking, without really being able to provide funding or represent the fans with a fairly low fan base, fairly low membership in representation to the fan base that we get on match days, what benefit do Kiosk having a director on the football club board? What does it bring to fans? How does it benefit us?
Well, we try to be part of the running of the club, and we're reasonably successful, I think, in what we do. But in terms of, you know, a specific, we're just part of the structure of the club and its general work, and we would like to bring a lot more, but we fit in with the existing workings of the club and try to be as helpful as possible and put over the fan perspective. And I think having fans in the club has a kind of insidious effect that makes the club behave helps the club behave in a particular way.
There's two different boards, remember, and the holding, you know, Jim's on the club board, and the club board's all about running the club, doing the things that the club needs to do on a day-to-day basis. The holding board's much more strategic and much less involved on the day-to-day things. And I think that's right, isn't it, Nigel?
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
When I first went onto the board, the 1921 board, the Kiosk director at the time came to meetings, and that was it. And there was times that director was made to leave the meeting so other things could be discussed. There's none of that now. It's a very open house policy. You guys are come and go and speak to everybody within the building. You're part of what decisions we're making, and there's never ever been an instance of well, Jim, I can't speak for you, Billy, because I'm not in their meetings, but you've never had to leave a meeting. You're privy to everything that goes on, and there's nothing held back anymore. So I think that's progress. But it's a slow progress. No, but that's the point. It has changed, and there was a lot of ill feeling back when Fred left, and there was a lot of bridges to build, and it you know, things don't happen in the blink of an eye in this club, to be honest. But it has taken time, but it is better than it's ever been in my time here.
I think that applies to the holdings board as well. You've got to remember, we've got a right, if you like, because of our shareholding, to have a director on the club board. We don't have a right to have a director on the holdings board, so we were invited to nominate a director for the holdings board. I can assure you that, you know, I try to represent the fans and tell them, you know, and be involved in everything to make sure that perspective is understood at holdings board meetings. But it's a very much more strategic role rather than the day-to-day, this is how we run the club role. Yeah, I've never been asked to leave, by the way.
I'll follow what Suzanne said. When I first joined the club, there was open warfare between the trust and the other shareholders. Total distrust, conflict. Not good for the club, not good for the individuals, not good to make progress. So I decided early on that had to stop. You cannot run a football club where you have infighting. Everybody needs to be on the same page about the direction the club needs to take, so that you can make progress forward against what you're trying to do, rather than spend all your time fighting each other. So that has been really important. So that's kind of one thing. So as Suzanne says, Jim comes to the 1921 meetings. He knows everything that's happening operationally about the club that we're doing. So whether that's work on the catering contract, whether it's work we're planning on the pitch, whether it's what we're planning in cash flow terms, all these kinds of things. He understands that, and when we're talking, having these discussions, he's saying, what the fans are telling me this, can't you factor that in? I'm speaking to fans and they're saying, can we consider this? What are you doing about tickets? Can we do something for these in terms of the fans? What are you doing about the bars? What are you doing about the prices? All these kind of things, you probably take them for granted, but they're important and they're useful. They give us perspective. To be honest, they reduce the number of the scope to make silly decisions. I'd like to think if there was a fan representative on some of the big 6 clubs boards, they might have put their hand up and says, this is a really bad idea that you're going to try and chop off the football pyramid from the Champions League. It's basic things that if you're in your 4 walls and you don't have a dose of reality occasionally, people in football clubs can do what they think's right, but it's not necessarily sensible. So that's really important. At the holdings board level, again, I fought from day one to get the trust to sit around that table and to convince the other shareholders that there was nothing to fear about having the trust involved, because them and the trust and the fans all want the same thing. They want the club to be successful, to progress, to improve, to do new things. So rather than thinking that there was something to be feared, let's get around the table and all work in the same direction and have an input into the direction of the club. I convinced them to do that, and it's worked. It's worked. Now the fans might not see that from the outside, but I can tell you from the inside, it's made this club better. It's made it more stable off the field. We don't spend all our time firefighting and sweeping up crises like we had before. And that gives us a chance to try and make some progress. Now again, I'm not saying the progress has been fast or major, but we're in a position where someone who wants to walk into this club are not going to find any skeletons in the cupboard. Our finances are clean. We're not hemorrhaging cash. We know what we're doing operationally. It's a simple club to deal with, and that is attractive to buyers. I can tell you, if you've got a choice of what to invest in, you're looking at a football club, and you see open warfare, fans trust getting sued by directors, being asked to exit meetings, and then saying we're all on the same side, joined together. Chaos, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So you have to get all these building blocks in place. So that has happened, and the trust is making its mark behind the scenes in doing that. Now again, there's not going to be, we've done this, we've done the other. But behind the scenes, it makes this club run in a manner which can get some things done and is capable of being a credible purchase for somebody. And I think that is, you can't get away from that. Before the club was run very informally. Meetings, minutes, this all very informally. It's now done properly. Meetings take place, there's agendas, actions, things get documented. There's no getting away from, well, what's your view? Well, my view is different to yours. It's there. You've got to deal with it. So these things are making this club better.
I think it's not a case of either, is it, Nigel? But, saying they're doing that because we wanted it. We told them they had to do that. That's not how it works. It's about putting ideas forward and then having collective talks around the subject and coming out with a solution. And sometimes those solutions are what we've suggested. But, we're not going to keep coming out saying they're doing that because we said so. They're doing it because the club thinks it's the right thing to do, and we've been part of the input that brings that to the fore, if you like.
So I think if the fans believe that the guys sit in a corner and say nothing and just it's just a waste of time, that's not the case. Honestly, it's not the case. It does make a difference. It does make a difference, and without them, the club would be worse off. I can tell you that because we live. Agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
So Nigel's just, briefly mentioned there the representation of fans in decision making. But with 10% of the average crowd being members of Kiosk, can you actually represent the fans?
We put out surveys pretty often, I think, nowadays. I don't know, we listen to people. People come to my shop and tell me all kinds all day long. I think we can represent the supporters, but, football supporters are as varied as every other, sections of population in life. I'm sure the London branch don't exactly want the same thing as the away travel or whatever, but between us all, I think we can, and I think football supporters basically want the same thing, don't they? They want to see their club well run. They want to see it open. They want to see, they want to know what the club's doing and which way it wants to go. And I think we help in making that happen.
It's interesting. After the Super League came along, everybody says what we should have is look to Germany, look to 49 plus 1 or 50 plus 1, whatever they've got over there. Their structure is that their trust have vetoes over stuff. Their trust can block things. So on the one hand, we've got an aspiration to copy what's happening overseas, But on the other, we're saying, oh, the trust, you've got nothing to offer because you're a minority and all you are is a blocker. So I think a lot of what we have in this club in terms of governance and overview by the trust and its involvement in the club and fan engagement are all seen by the wider game as things that are good for other clubs. Yet in our club, they're seen as not good, which I find really strange, but there you go.
A question for the trust guys from David Brown. Can he confirm that any proposals to dilute the trust share ownership will be put to the full membership as you guaranteed after the Andrew Lappin offer was rejected?
That's a hard question.
You can't just do a yes or a no.
No, because we've already said that if there was a magic kind of deal on offer and people who we were dealing with or the club were dealing with made an unbelievable offer and
I think if that offer was subject to no publicity,
the other party refused to allow us to talk about things or withdraw their offer, and then although that would probably signify that we wouldn't want them anyway, but there are circumstances perhaps where the deal is too good to risk.
As an example, say I won the Euro Millions tonight, £100 million. I came down tomorrow, I said, right, I've got £80 million, I'm going to buy this club, build a new ground, we're going to the Championship. Would you put but I want you to go to 10% end of?
You'd come and tell us what your plans were for the club.
Obviously,
not just I've got some money and I want it as my toy.
And but don't tell anybody, you'd have to say. If the potential new owner didn't want us to go into details, and there's plenty of them knocking about, we would kind of hedge our bets, but we can't absolutely guarantee it, and we've got the legal freedom to take our decision. We're elected as board members of Kiosk. We're elected by our members to act on their behalf, and so we could use that. But I can't 100% guarantee, because we made commitments that say if the right deal came along, and the people involved, for valid reasons, didn't want us to go public on it, then we might not, and we might. So in 99% of the cases, and not there'll be that many cases, we would go to our members.
We'd certainly wish to go to our members.
Yes.
I think this question came up over a year ago. It came up before the COVID lockdown in either a forum in here or one of our forums, and we let it be known then that we had the right to make that decision without taking it to a full members meeting, but it would always be our wish to be able to take it to a members meeting and get member approval on it.
Moving on topic, Brunton Park itself, I'll name check Peter Martin, Richard Mullin, Mike Turney, Ian Blair, Peter Watson and Liz Appleby all basically say that what is the developing or improving Brunton Park plans in the short term. Obviously Blue Yonder's at a halt at the moment, sort of thing. Is there any update on redevelopment, modernisation? Peter actually asks, why is the East Stand never been completed? Liz said, why don't we open some corporate boxes in it? It's all basically, is there any sort of plan for any form of development or improvement? Bearing in mind obviously the old state of the ground, shall we say.
Yeah, I've made a note of this because I thought this might come up. This came up from a question that was put via the forum in March 2020. So if fans want to go back and look, it's in the forum, question 12 and 13 from March 2020, where there was questions about the stadium. So there's a big long piece there, so I won't rehash all that. But essentially, where we are at the stadium is pretty straightforward, really. To make significant changes to this stadium would cost a lot of money. It's blindingly obvious. Everybody can see that. The club, as I've said in my recent financial updates, needs around £400,000 to £500,000 of new cash every year to pay its bills. That is at the moment coming from transfer fees and football fortune that we've banked in the past, that's going to keep us going for a good while yet. So that is how we're covering the trading loss in terms of cash, because we don't have access to external funding. What that means is we haven't got enough cash then to invest significantly in the stadium ourselves from our own resources. It just can't happen. We haven't got enough to pay the bills without the football fortune. So what we have to do is we have to be in a holding exercise with the stadium. That is doing what we can when we can, with the competing demands of other things across the club, mainly football. So that is the financial reality of it. So that's where we are from our own resources. Attempts in the past have been made with Blue Yonder to sell the stadium, redevelop it, move to another site, and use development profits to fund a new stadium. That is how many stadiums have been done who haven't been funded by a wealthy benefactor. So that was tried and it got stopped. Since then, the prospects of that happening again with retail and development profits has gone away. It gone away immediately. I kind of came into the club. We went to see the council.
Yeah,
twice.
I was there.
Twice. So again, probably this is a good thing. We can just revisit this. We went to see the council about the stadium because these guys said, "What you're doing about the stadium board strategically, you need to do something." So that probably wouldn't have happened. But it suited us to go, and I went because I hadn't been before. So we went and discussed it, and it was clear that kind of development gain is not available. It's not available anymore. So in the absence of self-funding and development profit, you're then on to what else can you do? You can have an owner who comes and builds you a stadium, like Brighton, and their owners put £200 million into that club. Like Brentford, their owners put £100 million into that club. Or Bristol City, and where Steve Lansdown's put probably £100 million into his club. Or Bournemouth. So there's lots of examples of these things getting done. But it's can clubs do it on their own? Not really at our level. Can they do it with a development profit? Not really anymore. With our flood, our land value is pretty low, so we're not going to be able to do that either. Can you do it with a benefactor? We haven't got one, right? So can the club do it community-wise? Which has always been my view of what suited this club. So I know David said something twice in interviews saying if he had the time he'd go and see the council. Well, we've been, right? Been. So I can give you what the answer is. The answer is, if you look up on the internet, local football facilities plan with the Football Foundation. I've talked about this before. The FA had a lot of money. It generally gives grants, and that's how things get done in football at the lower levels. It engaged in a 10-year strategic plan to identify community sites across the whole of the country where it would spend hundreds of millions of pounds with government money. And this has been going on for 2 years. So one of those has been done for Carlisle, but we don't feature in it. We don't feature in it. So a community stadium hub is not going to happen here unless something radical happens. And you can read it, it's on the Football Foundation under Carlisle football plan. There's a line in the middle that I'm responsible for, and it says something along the lines of, the club needs a stadium, this plan needs to be open-minded enough to deal with it when something happens. And that is the best that I could negotiate into that, given that nobody wanted to do a development here. So the club, so fans can look and see what the plans are for spending on football facilities in this city, and it's there, and that's not exactly carved in stone, but it's as near as damn it for the next 10 years. So these things are strategic, and they take a lot of time and a lot of effort. But you cannot go to the council or to funding bodies and say, help us develop this in our current position. Because the first thing they say is, how can we deal with you? You don't know who's going to be in charge in 3 months' time, 6 months' time. It's not a credible conversation to have. So say we're going to go and have a conversation with someone, you get laughed out of the room. So isn't happening. So as I said the other day, this goes back to succession. You cannot fix the stadium issue here until you fix succession. That's the order. So the order that I've been working on is stop the infighting, get the club on an even keel, stop hemorrhaging cash, get it in a position for someone to come in, someone comes in, they then can deal with the stadium. That then gives you an opportunity to generate more income, so you lose less money and you're less reliant on your owner. But all ties together, and as I said the other day, it comes back to succession. So you've got to get on that road, and eventually that is the key that unlocks so many things at this club that fans want to see happening, and we'd agree.
Yeah, it's got to be a particular kind of succession, though, hasn't it?
But I think everybody wants a succession that makes the club better, that allows a single vision where fans and owners are all united, looking forward, not looking back. And I think, whilst ever that is the case, we spend too much time answering questions and looking back for the legacy of the sins. I said in another forum, I keep repeating myself, I suppose, that nothing's forgiven or forgotten. Even more so at this club, but in football that's the case. So over a period of time you build up a legacy of issues, whether it's with chief executives, with managers, with shareholders, with trusts. It's all the same. It builds up. So I think that put all that together, and the thing that unlocks all these issues is succession. So we can look forward.
And partnership, I think, as well, Nigel, because, if you look at it, I know it's a much smaller sort of project, but you look what's happening now at Working, where they're bringing in the NHS, aren't they, and they're bringing in community services which will work within the ground through the week, when things aren't necessarily all tied up with football or just conference facilities or whatever else. And I think if we're seen to be a club that's got a vision and going places, surely that's when we'll be able to bring in these other agencies that sometimes have money and need facilities, and then they can put in some joint funding towards where we need to get to.
Yeah, generally those community type developments happen at two ends of the extreme. Either you've got a super shared vision and desire to do it, or your club's in such terminal chaos and carnage it's going to go extinct, and that is it.
We don't want that.
No, we don't. But if you look, my experience at Huddersfield, it was before my time, but they got a new stadium because of Hillsborough, and it was going to get condemned. It was that or no football club. Similar with Hull City and Boothbury Park. Doncaster and the Keepmoat, their ground got burnt down. All these kind of places, they've had the catalyst for getting them done was the real prospect of extinction of the club. Now we don't want to be in that situation, do we?
No.
So we can have a holding exercise to do all the things that I've said on this journey to get succession, but eventually you have to get it, because you can't hold a holding pattern forever. And I think that is what everybody understands, and everybody's working towards to try and make that happen as quickly as we can.
I think Nigel's explanation there in part answers the next question, but I will ask it. It's come from John Kukuch, and he asks, what is the holding board's corporate commercial strategy to manage Brunton Park's liability and also to maximise the value of the estate to the business? I think you've in part answered that. Is there a holdings board corporate commercial strategy?
I'm aware of.
The operational, I'll tell you what our strategy
Yeah,
is.
operational is different, but there's not.
Yeah, I'll tell you what our strategy is. That we will invest as much as we can, wherever we can, and prioritise the things that are as important as possible to fans. So we'll look to do bars and fan-facing infrastructure. But I can tell you, the list of things in this place, you make your eyes water. So, for instance, we're obviously looking positively and forward. Catering. We've got new catering arrangements. We want more fans coming in. We want things match day, non-match day. So we look at foxes. We look at relifing foxes. What can we do in there? So start right. Look at decoration. Right. Okay. Right. TVs. Right. Start digging into the wires. Need to rewire the whole of the stand to get the TVs properly, because they've been done ad hoc, piecemeal over decades. There's wires everywhere. So everything that looks really simple gets really difficult and really expensive really quickly. So it doesn't daunt us, and we don't give up on it, but it means we've got to be creative. We'll just plug now. But these are the sort of things. So we want to do it. Our issues are not around ideas, commitment, ambition, desire, heart, all these kind of things to make it work. For us, it's just sometimes a bit of cash might help. But we're at the bottom of the pyramid, so we go back to the succession. So it goes round and round. Go round and round, don't we?
Yeah.
You can grow if you invest in things. You can grow income, generate cash to reinvest. But at some point, you have to invest in the start.
Let's not go round and round. Let's stay on facilities and hospitality. A few people have asked similar questions, so I'll group them. Ryan Hogarth, Martin Waller and Peter Brooks are all asking about the hospitality. Might be a good chance for the club to put some more information out there following the press releases. The rugby club and the BI as examples offer miles better pre-match experience bar-wise than our own club. Sometimes it's like the club don't really want fans there pre-match, and there's perhaps a lack of effort. There's never really any offers on to get people into the ground before match days or to stay afterwards, and the TVs don't always show the early kick-off. So what's being done to increase profit on match days?
This was one of the biggest reasons that we started looking at bringing the catering in-house, to have more control, to have more ability to dictate what happens at them times. And we know, and we've heard repeated concerns from fans, you know, the offering's not great, the variety's not great, the pricing's not great, the environment's not great. So we know, but we've been in positions where we've been bound to the services of others. So COVID provided a little bit of an opportunity to relook at things and have a bit of time to look at things and how we can do it properly, how we can change it, and is it the right thing to do to bring in-house, because it's a huge challenge. But fortunate that we've got a good partner coming on board that's very forward thinking, very practical, very hands-on, very keen to get going, and we've got support for the people in looking at things like the bar areas, the decoration, the environment, you know, including you guys as fans and the money that you have raised for the fans bar. So I think where we're going to step into things at the start of next season is with a different look, a different environment, something more welcoming, hospitable, comfortable for fans, but also newer offerings, so competitive pricing but better standard of product. We're looking at things like what can we do on a match day, can we get old players involved, people connected to the club involved to be around here on a match day, to give fans a reason to come and be part of something at the club that's not just grabbing a quick pint before you go to the game. So hopefully with the change and it coming in-house and having more control, the benefits will all be to the fans, which will then in turn to a financial benefit for the club.
And those issues that were raised there, the competition from other establishments, have all been considered within the club and will be reflected, I think, in the questionnaire.
Yes, which has gone out today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we recognise some of those, well, all of those criticisms, I suppose. Not getting away from it. We tried with early bird offers and leaving a bar open late after the game to try and get fans in. But we need to improve and do better. We've got a questionnaire that's gone out to fans to try and get a deeper understanding of what is the most important things, to confirm our understanding and maybe gives us some new insights. So we'd ask fans to get involved in that. We are forming a fan panel to work with us ongoing, not just now but into the future, to sort of be the real hands-on eyes and ears on a match day and on a non-match day, to sort of say, right, we've seen you've done this, we don't like it, let's have a look at something else to get better ideas, to make changes quicker that'll have a bigger impact. So we are looking at all aspects. We want to get more local with the produce, we want better value for money, we want lower prices wherever possible, and we are looking at this as a long term. We're not looking to squeeze the pennies out of a shrinking and poor experience. We're looking to make this better. It goes back to how we're going to do things to grow the club.
And part of that is making the atmosphere a little better, or a lot better.
Well, funny enough, Peter, when I think he actually did it when we were streaming last week, he was, why can't we have the fans on like Tranmere are planning? I know that's something I've talked about with you personally, isn't it, before? Yeah, well that's it. That's one of the things that we've been talking already about in terms of how that might work outside. We are looking at for instance, the Lakeland Steaks concessions been particularly popular. We're looking at having extra ones with different varieties of food outside, to create like a food village. So that's something that we're all already looking at as well. We're looking at cashless systems and at-sea apps, and we've got a long way to go to get to them, but that is the aspiration, to try and address some of these things. We've already about to start work on refurbishing the Sporting Inn as that becomes Murphy's Bar. Matt and CUSG are dealing with furniture and design and some wraps, and the club's sorting out the decoration, painting, and some better TVs. So we're all working. To me, this is what it's about. We're all working together to do all this.
Kiosk are putting some money into that as well.
I was going to say, it took me 6 years, I think, to get a television that worked in the Sporting Inn.
Yeah,
every time I went in, I was attacked about it. We finally got a television that wasn't an antique.
It's the aerials, yeah. So no, but joking aside, there's real commitment from us to do this. honestly, there is. We won't come and say that we're trying to do it if we didn't have an intention to make it happen. We know that it's required. Certainly, I'm really pleased that the way the supporters groups, for all their concerns about other aspects of the club, have embraced trying to deal with some of the stadium issues that help the club make a better environment for them. So that's really pleasing from our point of view, and long may that continue, because we're really committed to it. This is what fan engagement kind of stuff's about for me, working together. So hopefully the fans will give some good feedback and helpful feedback on the catering, so that then we can start to say, right, well, this is what we need to deliver now and later on, and then ongoing fans will join us on the panel to give us their views at the same time. So we'll have to say.
I'll personally support by using the bars on an even more regular basis.
You know, beer certainly drinks contracts are very much based on volume, and the volume you buy. So the more people that come, the more people that give it a try, the more people stay, come earlier, stay later, and consume without being silly with it. The better in the longer term we can get the prices.
And that's what we've said in the statements that we've said about the catering. Every profit will be recycled. Every penny of profit will be recycled into the club. The spending will make more difference than ever before. We've been criticised for not growing income. This is us trying to do that within the constraints that we've got.
This is on iFollow. We covered the majority of it last time. The only bit that was sort of missed out, Liz Appleby just says, on the iFollow coverage, every other team seemed to have all their mini sponsors on. We basically had EWM, who obviously don't really exist anymore, our own shop and website. Could we have given credit to more of our existing sponsors, or do we not have many? Do other team sponsors pay for the name check, etc.? How does it work basically?
Yeah, how many options were there at the start? Six. So there's 6 slots at the start. They were made available to all clubs, and yes, they're there to be sold. So we weren't able to fill those slots. So we filled them with internal messaging. We didn't want to go down the route of undervaluing the site and the opportunity by giving it away for free, because once you've given something away for free, it's very difficult then to sell it later on. So it's there. That's why we put our own branding in it, so people could actually see that there's an opportunity. And what I would say is it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity. We talked earlier on. We got a proposal. Somebody was talking about what about a programme advert? A programme advert. We do a programme. It might get seen by 300 people. 300 people. Yet on that site, it's seen by thousands, because it's seen over and over again. So the IT, social media, all these kind of opportunities to raise the profile of businesses are fantastic, and there's loads of them around the club. So I would say to anybody who wants to raise their profile, anybody who wants some visibility, we've got loads of opportunities around the club commercially to do that. Whether it's from a big screen to having your name and logo in front of interviews, goal highlights, loads of them. It's a great opportunity, and it's something that we need to do better on commercially. We all know that. There's no escaping from it, and we're looking at that to do what we can. So anybody who's interested, pick up the phone. We'll be glad to hear from you.
Next couple of questions on season tickets come from Chris Jewett and Jennifer Murray. The club treat cash paying season ticket holders differently to direct debit season ticket holders in terms of refunds, etc. Why was that? And will the club recognise the financial help given by cash payers when it comes to offering packages for early buy season ticket holders next year? And can the club confirm that everyone who wanted a season ticket refund for the 2021 season received one? And are all season ticket holders happy with the outcome, or have you got any unresolved issues still?
I think everyone's happy. We resolved issues as they came along. We treat everybody as an individual, and we didn't lump people together and have a one rule does everybody. We listened to everyone. The cash card direct debit scenario, it was just the biggest nightmare scenario. Selling, refunding season tickets. It's a huge undertaking at the best of times, and this was the worst of times. So when we did it the first time, September, we'd really hung back, and we thought we'd done the right thing, not selling season tickets in the April, May of the season before like we normally do. We were in a fortunate position where we didn't need the money to come in, so we sat back and we waited and we waited and we waited, and then we got the go-ahead for the pilot game against Southend, and we got told that fans would be in from the Barrow game, which was the next game. So we thought we were good to go. We sold season tickets with a value of 22 games. Brilliant. Had the Southend game, great success, everything signed off, and then the plugs pulled. So we refund everybody. What we gave people the option to do that had paid by cash or card was to set up a direct debit, so that when they could come back in, they didn't have to come and rebuy their ticket and go through the process again. They just shipped straight onto a direct debit, and a huge number of people did that, which took the administrative burden away, because we could deal with that in the meantime. There were some people that wanted refunds because of their circumstances, and that was no problem. They got their refunds. There was people that chose to leave the money with the club and take the iFollow codes, and they got that again. Then we hit December, you can have people back in, so we went through the whole process once again, and then again we got the 4 games in, and then we're back out. So we stopped the direct debits, we started reissuing the iFollow codes, and those people that came to us wanting refunds were given refunds. So as far as I'm aware, personally, there's no outstanding issues. Everybody's kind of been happy with their position, everybody's known their position, and we move forward, hopefully, into next season.
The final part of that, I 100% agree. I think the key bit is when, for those people who had paid in cash, we offered a full refund. No quibble refund at that point. When we sold for the second time, before we sold for the second time, we said that anybody who then pays in cash again would not get a refund. They'd get iFollow codes. So we're really clear on that, and that worked well. And I think throughout we made the decision to show fans respect, not to take cash early when we knew fans wouldn't be able to get in, and kind of keep it and then offer something that was less value later. And we're doing that again this year because we don't know, and we still don't know. So that's that. The final part of the question was, is there going to be some recognition for cash payers last season, next season? I don't think there'll be any recognition in the season ticket pricing, but we're looking at ways to try and reward that loyalty and recognise it. But it won't be in season ticket pricing. We're not going to have a separate season ticket price for people who were season ticket holders and paid cash last year. They'll have an opportunity to renew at a renewal price compared to those who weren't season ticket holders.
Can I just, it's nothing to do with season tickets, but I think it's something I'm not sure we've mentioned enough. I think we've got to give this club, and basically the people that run this club, the credit for the way they dealt with supporters, with their own staff, and with everybody else around the club over this period of the last year. We must be. I genuinely believe that our club have dealt with the whole thing better than probably 99% of the clubs in the football league, And I think we should all thank them for that, because it wasn't easy, but I think everybody was treated really well.
Couple of questions now regarding the club shop, and more specifically on the website side of that. Michael Mason asks, could the Blue Store website have a small amount of time and money spent on it? It looks very dated and unprofessional, makes us look like an old man's club. As a 19-year-old fan looking at it, it really isn't modern looking, and it may be another thing that turns our younger fans off about the club. And Liz Appleby asked on the same theme, are there any plans to modernise the club shop website?
Hopefully, it's actually a really good system. Just
Back office system.
yeah, the kind of other side of it. We just, and I mean, we have great staff in our shop and great club staff. We just haven't had anybody that's had the skills, because it's, you know, it's a internet thing.
There's a repos till system. You got not sort of restrict what you can do as far as that goes.
No, the kind of the website side of it's quite open. We just need to find somebody that has the skills and a bit of time to do that. You know, I'm sure these guys could do it, but they're working 80 hours a week between them on a quiet week, so it's finding time and somebody that is capable of doing that. The system's like a blank page from the little bits that I've tweaked. It's a very blank kind of document that somebody that's a bit more able than any of us are could come in and really work some wonders with it, and it all links into the stock and the EPOS system. So it is something we need to look at, and it is something we maybe need to find a little bit of help for.
Yeah, I think Suzanne's been very political, so you know what I'm like. So yeah, I really enjoy these forums. It's honestly might sound a bit uncomfortable, but I really enjoyed them.
Don't say the next question.
Oh no.
Just be blunt.
No, we seem to be going down my tick list of things that need fixing. So we've known for a long time the retail website is past its sell-by date. It works well from the back office, but from a front office user point of view, no. It's on the list to sort when I can find some money to sort it. And that's the genuine, honest answer. We know it. We know it's that. I talked to you, Billy, about it.
Yeah.
Didn't I? Whether that could be the next thing that we could get some support from out of the Reunited Fund, because we accept that and we understand it, and it could be, and it goes under another one of those things where a little bit of investment generates some profit that you can reinvest, along with the TVs and the stadium and a number of other things we talked about. Doesn't daunt us. We know it's there. The staff do their best with it, but it's as frustrating for us knowing that it's not quite up to scratch as it is for the fans. I can tell you. Yeah, I can't say no more.
This is the last we'll be asking this evening, because we've got one or two that'll be emailed to various people. It's from Pete Martin, and it's possibly the most important question you'll get asked tonight. What's your favourite type of crisp?
What's it? Mine, McCoy's cheese and onion.
Good shout.
Cheese XL.
Yeah, whatever you said.
Cheese XL.
Cheese XL.
It probably sells, 4 times what any other crisp sells in North Cumbria.
Is that it?
Yeah, well, I mean, what a way to sign off, because I mean that's part of my match day experience.
Want some cheese?
Yeah, a couple of pints and a packet of XL crisps, and that's synonymous with the match day experience. So I hope that we've got that.
Is that in a good way?
Yes, I think I hope we've got that factored into the new catering requirements. Lots of XL crisps. I know people who take boxes back with them from Cumbria to far beyond.
Support the club.
Dan just briefly mentioned there's a number of questions that we haven't answered tonight, and that's mainly because haven't asked tonight. It's because on the football side of things, no disrespect to anyone on the panel, I don't think you'll answer them correctly. So we'll email them to the club we'll use Nigel as point of contact. If you could distribute them, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
But just to thank you to everyone here, thank you to everyone watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Hope you all enjoyed it.